It all started out like a typical Thursday at my high school. Everyone was getting excited for the weekend and the upcoming backwards dance. The backwards dance was something that my school does every year. The girls asked the boys to the dance instead of the boys asking the girls. There was usually some big proposals when girls would get down on one knee and ask their boyfriend to the dance with them. I'd never been to a dance before, at least not with a boy. My best friend forever, Alicia, knew how much I liked Blake, the cutest boy on the basketball team. However, she also knew talking to Blake makes me stutter, slur my words, and basically make myself look like a fool. I've had a crush on Blake since 3rd grade, and although we have been friends for some time, we've never been close enough to where I could be my real self around him. Apparently, Alicia didn't care about how crazy I felt in front of Blake, because on this Thursday morning, as soon as she saw Blake strolling into the boys' bathroom next to her locker, she quickly grabbed me by both my shoulders and shoved me into the bathroom, slamming the door behind me. Now, mind you, I've never been in a boys' bathroom. I have to say, it looks pretty similar to a girl's bathroom, except probably a bit smellier, and the urinals. Ew. At first, I was super confused as to why she would so forcefully put me in the bathroom. What was this horrible prank she was playing on me? I did not want to get in trouble if I was caught in the boys' bathroom. I tried to push the door open, but Alicia was standing in front of it. From the outside of the door, I heard her say, "You'll thank me for this later." I didn't think I would. And now I was afraid to turn around. I didn't know what Blake was doing, but there was a whole row of urinals behind me. I hadn't even kissed Blake yet. I definitely didn't want to see him using the bathroom. What if someone else was in here too? Oh no, my face was starting to turn beet red. "Cara?" Blake said, surprised. I spun around quickly and saw that he was stepping up to the sink. I let go of the door handle and gave him the weirdest, hopefully cute, smile I could muster. Hi, Blake," I said, wiping my sweaty palms on my jeans. "What are you doing here?" He pointed to the sink and turned on the water. "I had to take a leak. The question is, what are you doing here?" he asked, looking at me through the mirror above the sink. Man, he was hot. I pushed the door once more to see if Alicia was still there. The door wouldn't budge, and I heard a quick "nope" from the other side. Dang it. She's trapped me in the bathroom with a hot boy. I stepped away from the door and walked closer to Blake. "Alicia locked me in here." "Why?" he asked, looking at the door, then back at me. "She wants me to ask you something." My hands were trembling. I needed something to play with, but all I could see were dirty paper towels, so I stuck my hands in my pockets and went on. "I was hoping that maybe you would go to the dance with me," I asked, but it probably didn't sound as cool in real life as it does here. He turned off the water in the sink and stared at me. At this point, I could look anywhere but at his face. If he said no, I would be devastated. Not only because of the rejection, but because I know he would go tell everyone I stalked him in the boys' bathroom. All of a sudden, a huge smile spread across his face. "You didn't have to come try and see me naked to ask me. I'd love to go to the dance with you." My eyes lit up and I almost screamed in excitement. Instead, I kept my cool and nodded. "Awesome! I can't wait. My dress is blue, so see you Saturday," he said as he walked toward the bathroom door. He tried to push it open, but Alicia was still there. "Stop being annoying and ask him, Cara!" she shouted from the other side. "It's Blake." I said yes. The door swung open and Alicia ran inside to give me a hug. "Now, when you guys get married, promise you won't have your ceremony in the bathroom," she exclaimed. I blushed just as the first bell rang. Once more, Alicia shoved me into Blake and we gave each other a big hug. My face was still red as a tomato. Alicia put her arms around my shoulders and gave me a big squeeze as we said goodbye to Blake. I squealed in excitement, almost jumping up and down. I said, "As much as I hate you right now, I love you even more." Alicia just laughed with an "I told you so" look in her eyes. The rest of the day went by without a hitch. Alicia and I were laughing in first period, thinking of places to go for dinner before the dance, and people to hang out with afterward. I was hoping since Blake was on the basketball team that he would know of some awesome parties we could go to after the dance. Alicia had a boyfriend, Thomas, who she'd been dating for over a year. He was going to pick us up in his car, and we figured we could just meet Blake at the restaurant. Everything changed around lunch. When lunchtime came around, all I heard whispered throughout the halls was how super dorky Kara asked out Blake. And he said yes, since he felt really awkward because Kara was watching him pee. Obviously, I'm Kara, and this isn't how it happened. You can't convince a bunch of teenagers anything different, though. Everyone was staring at me as I walked to lunch. I tried to hold my head high, but the whispering was getting to me. As soon as I saw Blake in the lunchroom, I went right up to him and said, "What's this I hear about you getting asked out by a dorky Kara in the bathroom?" I crossed my arms. I hope I looked intimidating, but probably not. After all, I'm only 5 feet tall. Blake was 6'1" and towered over me. Without even looking down at me, he said, "What are you talking about? I don't even know you." Just as I scoffed and was about to turn away, Alicia came up behind me with her phone in her hand. It showed a picture of Blake and I hugging after we came out of the bathroom. She showed all of his friends, which started a round of oohs and ahs. Blake was trapped now. His friends were waiting expectantly for him to say something, but he only hung his mouth open. Alicia was about to start talking again, but I put my hand on her arm to stop her. "I really just don't think you're masculine enough for me." I then looked at his friends and said, "Just so you know, big shoes don't always mean big." Then Alicia pulled me away. The teacher was coming, and she didn't want me to get yelled at. We could hear Blake's friends making fun of him as we walked away. Everyone in the lunchroom was staring, so I put my head in my hands and ran to the bathroom. The girls' bathroom this time. Alicia followed me and pulled me into the stall. I was really upset because I didn't understand why Blake would be so mean when he was so nice in the bathroom. Soon, we heard the door open and the scuffling of feet. 2 blue Air Jordans popped up under the stall, and a knock came on the stall door. "Kara?" It was Blake. "Get out," I said, sniffling. "I'm sorry I said that you were dorky and made fun of you for asking me to dance. The truth is, I don't know how to dance, and I actually have a crush on Alicia." My mouth dropped. My stomach flipped. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Alicia quickly grabbed Blake by the hand and pulled him into the stall. What happened next, I will never forget for the rest of my life. I thought Alicia was going to kiss Blake, but instead, she grabbed him by the back of the head and thrust it into the toilet. "Quick, Kara, flush!" she screamed. I'm not sure why I reached for that toilet handle, but I did, and we gave Blake the best swirly I've ever seen. Granted, I've only seen that one, but still, it was the best. Alicia pulled Blake's head up quickly, his face wet and his nose running. "Why did you say yes to my best friend if you didn't actually want to go to the dance with her?" Blake looked at Alicia. "I wanted to get close to you." She dunked his head again, and I flushed. "For one thing, I have a boyfriend, and for another thing, I would never, ever, ever date someone my BFF had a crush on." We may have flushed him a couple more times, but since we were afraid someone would come into the bathroom, I finally told Alicia to stop. He was drenched, and who knows the last time that toilet was cleaned, or how many girls had sat on it since this morning. Blake was able to stand up, but as soon as he got to the stall door, Alicia said, "And you better not ever tell anyone who did this to you. Oh, and one more thing. You better go tell everyone that you lied about Kara and that she is way too cool for you to go out with." "What if I don't?" Blake asked. "Then next time, it won't be a swirly." She lunged at him like she was going to hit him, but he jumped and ran out of the stall. When he left the bathroom, I couldn't do anything but stare at Alicia. I had never seen her like this in my life. She was such a badass and stuck up for me. I loved her more than ever. The next day at school, Friday, everyone was talking about how Blake didn't show up. He said he was sick, but everyone believed he was too embarrassed to come back to school after what happened the day before. People kept coming up to me and asking if I really saw Blake with his pants down in the bathroom, and all I had to do was scrunch my nose and say, "Unfortunately." Blake hasn't bothered me since that day. In fact, we had a great time at the dance on Saturday. We, as in Alicia and I. We went together. She let her boyfriend stay home. We spent the whole day getting ready, doing our hair and makeup. It was probably the best day of my life. And to think all of this happened because she pushed me into the boys' bathroom and locked me in there. What do you think about my story? Has anything crazy like this ever happened to you? Let me know in the comments.
So this couple comes in together to buy an engagement ring, and they had a budget of about $20,000, which is a lot for an engagement ring. But the ring that she happened to pick out was about $35,000, which is a lot of money. And she was really adamant about picking it. And he was kind of reserved, like, it is a lot of money. But she's like, no, if you love me, you'll buy it, yada, yada, yada. And he's like, you know what? You're going to be my wife, the mother of my kids, whatever makes you happy. So after they finally decide, I pack it up for them. I'm like, here you go. Have a great marriage. Have a great life. Goodbye. About 3 weeks later, the fiance comes in, and I'm thinking she just wants to get the ring size or something. And she's like, can you guys take out the diamond and replace it with a cubic zirconium? Cubic zirconium is a very cheap substitute for a diamond. So I was like, yeah, we can do that, but just give us 2 or 3 days. So she leaves, and I call her fiance because I was like, oh, this is really suspicious. And he had no idea that she came into the shop or that she was coming in. So he calls me 2 days later, and he finds out that she was going to break up with him. She would have kept that diamond, and she would have given him the fake one. He would have returned it, and he would have gotten no money back. Talk about mess.
On Fanatic Friday, The Boy in the Box. The year was 1957, and it was a cold and dewy morning in Philadelphia. A man was poking around a portion of road that was used as a dumping ground for garbage. He poked something that he originally thought was a doll packed away in a bassinet box. He was so convinced it was a doll that he didn't call the police. However, the next day, a news report broadcasted a missing 4-year-old girl. This is when he questioned himself about the doll he saw and decided to call it in. When investigators arrived at the scene, they found wrapped in a flannel blanket was the nude, badly injured body of a little boy. Police estimated the boy to be between 4 to 6 years old with a full set of baby teeth. His cause of death was severe trauma to the head, but his body showed signs of years of abuse. He was malnourished, covered in bruises, had a scar under his chin, and surgical scars on his ankle and groin. The police were confident that this case would be solved quickly. However, days turned into weeks and no one came forward to identify the body. Hundreds of recruits scoured the woods looking for any clues. The paper distributed over 200,000 flyers. The child was unidentified for years to come. That is until 1998, when a segment of America's Most Wanted led to a spike in interest in the case. His body was exhumed for a DNA sample. Crime Fanatic Friday Part 2, The Boy in the Box. Sadly, the DNA and dental testing was a bust. Several people came forward with information relating to the case, but police weren't able to verify any testimonies. However, a few theories have been introduced over the years. In 2002, a psychiatrist called in about the case with a promising lead on behalf of a woman named Martha. During a 3-hour interview, Martha talked about her childhood. She told police her mother had purchased the boy in 1954 from his biological parents. The mother physically and sexually abused Martha and the boy. One day, the boy fell sick in the bathtub, and the mother became enraged, beating him to death. She wrapped the boy in a blanket, put him in the car, and took Martha with her to dispose of him. However, Martha suffered from serious mental health issues, and this made her an unreliable witness. An investigator who wasn't giving up on the case sought the help of a psychic in New Jersey. This psychic stated that the boy came from a house in Philadelphia, which she described in great detail, despite never having been there. The house was less than 2 miles down the road from where the boy was found. It was a foster home ran by a couple who had over 20 foster children. They had a bassinet that they bought from an auction like the one that the boy was discovered in, as well as blankets similar to the one that the boy was wrapped in. After countless interviews, nothing concrete was found. To this day, the case is still unsolved.
Human hamburgers. This story is disturbing, so listen with caution. Joe Metheny was an addict. He met another addict, they got married, they had a child, and Joe worked as a truck driver. One day, Joe was asked to work overtime, and when he came home, he found his wife and son were gone. She took him to go live with another man. She ended up losing custody of their son, and Joe was denied custody. Angry, Joe went to his wife's dealer's spot under a bridge to try to find her. He didn't find her, but he did find 2 homeless men who had done substances with his wife, so he brutally offed them with an axe. The next day, back at the bridge, he bribed a woman living under the bridge with substances for information. When she didn't have anything helpful to tell him, he offed her. He put her in the bushes, and he found another woman and did the same thing. And as he's dragging her to the bushes, a man who was fishing saw him, so he got rid of him too. 2 weeks later, Joe was arrested after 2 of the bodies were discovered in the river. After 18 months, Joe was released for lack of sufficient evidence, and it gets so much crazier. Part 2. Human hamburgers. Part 2. This story is disturbing, so listen with caution. Joe Metheny was arrested after 2 bodies were discovered in the river. He served 18 months and then was released for lack of sufficient evidence. Joe got a job at a factory and lived in a trailer down the road. As soon as he had the chance, he lured some vulnerable women out with substances as he did before. He offed them and cut them into pieces and placed them into Tupperware containers. Not long after this, Joe opens a beef stand, and no one knew that Joe would mix in some of what he called special meat. His beef stand was pretty popular, and he quickly ran out of his special meat, so he lured another woman into his trailer to restock. Thankfully, he made a mistake and turned away for a second, and the woman was able to escape and go to the police. Joe was arrested immediately. When the police arrived on scene, they found multiple bodies and parts. Joe died in prison from heart failure. In his last interview, he said, "The words 'I'm sorry' will never come out of my mouth. The next time you visit that beef stand down the road, make sure before you bite that sandwich, you think about this story."
I'm mad asshole for calling out my mother-in-law for babying her grown son. My mother-in-law has babied her son for as long as I've known them. She has treated him like a child, and he's a 32-year-old man. My husband was sick and had to take off work, and while I was at work, she would come into our house and take care of him. I was never notified about this until I came home from work and she was there. She's always telling me how I'm a bad wife and that I need to cater to his son's every need. I've told my husband that it's very odd that his mom treats him like that, and I've also overheard her telling him that he should leave me and come back to live with her, since I'm such a terrible wife. She's always getting in my face about how I should change and how I can be more like her. She thinks I'm not enough for him, and my husband does nothing about it. He even agrees with her sometimes. When I came home, I asked her what she was doing, and she told me treating her son how he deserves to be treated, and that she's doing the things that I will not do. That was my last straw, and I blew up on her. My husband took her side, and they both told me I was out of line. So, am I the asshole?